Electricity power provides boundless possibilities in all modern human society. The course of human history itself changed in the 19th century with the coming of electricity. That period marked the beginning of a new civilization called the electricity age. With electricity power, life entered the fast lane, and today, human progress now moves virtually at the speed of light. The authorities in Nigeria realized the all-important place of electricity in the everyday life of the citizens, hence the high premium on the commodity by successive administrations. The goal, of course, being to ensure availability of electric power and the citizens truly enjoy its uninterrupted power supply. Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, on assumption of office as acting president in March 2010, made no pretense over his desire and resolve to totally transform Nigeria's power sector. The then acting president realized from the outset that if he fixes power, the country's growth and development will accelerate. In an address to the nation as acting president in March 2010, Dr. Jonathan told Nigerians that there was a need to prioritize on a few of the most critical areas which continue to plague efforts at engendering meaningful economic growth and development. Power was included among the critical sectors. On assumption of office as President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on May 6, 2010, Dr. Jonathan said in his address, and I quote, "I want to reassure all Nigerians that the pledges we made to improve the social-economic situation which we face through improved access to electricity, water, education, health, and other social amenities would continue to be given the needed emphasis." End of quote. Power sector development has remained a constant variable in the President's many addresses at various other fora.
I'm greatly encouraged at the progress made so far towards the reforming the power sector since the launching of this sector in August 2010. I sought to fulfill the intent of the Electric Power Sector Reform Act of 2005, which strives to liberalize the sector and bring in private sector ownership, management and financing to the industry.
Flowing from this, President Jonathan on August 26, 2010, launched the Power Sector Roadmap, a document which in part clarifies government's strategy on the divestiture of the Power Holding Company of Nigeria. That document now provides the barometer to gauge the administration's commitment on the divestment program, adjudged the largest in the world. The Financial Times newspaper recognized the revolution going on in the country's power sector. Hence, it wrote, and I quote, "There is an increasing belief that the Nigerian power sector is about to change, and the consensus seems to be that this change will be for the better." End of quote.
He has demonstrated his promise to make it his number one priority by actually being the first president in the history of this country to even take that portfolio and say, look, for now, this is so important to me. In addition to my other responsibilities, I'll hold on to the power sector.
The Power Sector Roadmap document also embodies the reforming of the fuel-to-power sector geared towards establishing a viable and sustainable power industry. In this regard, the federal government has been working assiduously towards the diversification of the energy mix in order to enhance the security of power supply. Already, the government is exploiting the nation's vast resources of coal, solar, wind, biomass, and hydropower potentials.
The government is working very hard to promote renewable energy, especially solar, because the government of Nigeria recognizes that virtually all parts of Nigeria are suitable for solar energy. And that was why Mr. President himself physically commissioned on the 13th of January 3 communities to flag off Operation Light Up Rural Nigeria. He did that, and these communities, every house, every street, every road path is lighted by solar.
Nigeria is also now taking various steps to implement renewable energy and energy efficiency programs. This is to increase the energy mix in accordance with the United Nations General Assembly's commitment to the Millennium Development Goals.
We are building a sound and sustainable electricity industry with great expectations for robust growth in the sector. However, success in any endeavor does not happen by accident, but is facilitated by sound decision, conscious effort, and immense persistence, which the company management have and investors. We are committed to irreversibly repositioning the Nigerian power sector as a pivot for the attainment of the nation's development targets. We are also maintaining our policy push for increased diversification of our energy sector, expanding investments in large hydropower projects through public-private partnerships, and the provision of necessary support to accelerate the exploitation of our coal resources.
Under President Jonathan's administration, Nigeria's domestic gas supply has grown to an all-time high of 1,500 cubic feet per day from a modest supply level of 300 cubic feet per day. About 70% of this is channeled to the power plants. The administration has given assurance that it will continue to develop new gas supply sources and grow the medium-term supply capacity within the next 4 to 5 years to about 3,500 million cubic feet per day in support of the power sector. The administration has also embarked on what observers see as the most aggressive expansion of the nation's gas pipeline infrastructure. Work has been completed on the pipeline connections to all the nation's power plants. The Jonathan-led federal government has also reformed the commercial framework for gas supply, which has seen the gas-to-power price now at a more commercial level than they were before his administration came on board. As at 2014, Nigeria has successfully transited from a vertically inclined government monopoly to a privately structured and regulated private sector-dominated market. This process has received global commendations and adjudged the most transparent in Africa. Under the privatization program, the 11 distribution companies, DISCOs, and 6 generation companies, GENCOs, offered for sale have been handed over to their new private owners. The privatization marked the conclusion of a process that saw to the unbundling of Power Holding Company of Nigeria into the 11 DISCOs, 6 GENCOs, and 1 transmission company. In its wisdom, the Jonathan administration did not privatize the transmission company. Rather, it signed a contract with Manitoba Hydro International, a globally recognized firm, to manage it. The administration has strengthened power market intermediaries such as the Nigeria Bulk Electricity Trading PLC, NBET, with sufficient working capital to enable its solvency and credit worthiness based on the payment risk exposure by each of the DISCOs. NBET is now cash-backed with over 120 billion naira, that is 750 million US dollars, in financing to help stimulate greater private investment in the sector.
NIPP contribution to the national grid stands at about 1,600 megawatts on a regular basis, as efforts are being made on the part of the Power Holding Company of Nigerian Generation successor companies to carry out maintenance and overhaul of more units in the privatized power stations with a view to achieving a robust generation profile for the country. It is very clear that better days are ahead.
Statistical surveys carried out in 2013 indicated that Nigeria, with a population of about 170 million people, has a per capita electricity consumption of 103.81 kilowatts. Comparatively, the country's electricity consumption is relatively low. This therefore suggests that there is so much room for improvement and by implication stimulate investment. This explains why President Jonathan has put in place certain types of guarantee and tariff frameworks to attract investment.
NIPP as a national project was essentially moribund and comatose when Mr. President Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan assumed office in May 2010. Let us not forget also that it was this same president that led as a leader and as a trusted leader and a great respected leader to ensure that all the 3 tiers of government have a buy-in in the NIPP projects, without which what we celebrate today would have been an impossibility.
From the 2,500 megawatts the Jonathan administration inherited in May 2011, Nigeria currently generates approximately 4,500 megawatts of electricity. That is, just about 10% of the power requirement of the country. Worried by this situation, therefore, the Jonathan administration embarked on expansion of infrastructure to shore up the generating capacity of the 16,000 megawatts, as well as expand and strengthen the transmission network to wheel 16,000 megawatts and increase electricity access to 50% from the current 40% by 2015. As at the end of 2012, Nigeria's peak generation profile stood at 4,517 megawatts, while her installed generation capacity as at 2013 stood at a record of 9,920 megawatts, with available generation capacity at 6,522 megawatts. As at 2012, the country's transmission wheeling capacity was 4,527 megawatts, but that figure moved to 6,870 megawatts in 2013. Also, the country's distribution capacity moved from 6,360 megawatts in 2011 to 7,325 megawatts in 2013.
Government will continue with this regulatory role to make the nascent power sector market more responsive to the forces of demand and supply.
The development of infrastructure by the Jonathan administration has given birth to 10 gas-fired plants under the National Integrated Power Project (NIPP) scheme, managed by the Niger Delta Power Holding Company. The 10 projects being constructed have a combined generation capacity of about 5,222 megawatts, and they are at various stages of completion. The projects are located in Omotosho, Olorunshogo, Alaoje, Sapele, Geregu, Ihobo, Bering, Calabar, Egbema, and Omoku towns. Only recently, 4 new power plants were commissioned at Azura in Edo State, Zungeru in Niger State, Omotosho in Ondo State, and Gedu Town.
This is part of our administration's continuing efforts to provide regular electricity to the teeming population of our great country. In the months ahead, I will be commissioning a number of other equally significant completed NIPP power plants, which will add close to 5,000 megawatts to our generation capacity. Today's event, therefore, goes beyond the symbolic commissioning of a power plant. It underlies our strong commitments and systematic
practical implementation and integrated vision in the power sector.
Also, a number of distribution projects that cover maintenance and expansion have been executed through the 11 distribution companies, DISCOs. These projects and more illustrate the Jonathan administration's commitment and focus, just as they signify government's recognition of the significant role the power sector plays in driving economic growth.
With electricity generation and distribution now in the hands of the private sector operators, our power transmission is on full course. I'm confident that in the very near future, the present epileptic power situation, which is a major stumbling block to the rapid growth of our economy, will give way to noticeable improvement in terms of electric delivery.
There are also several hydro dam projects being executed across the country. Currently, the total installed capacity of the power generating plants stands at 7,876 megawatts, but the available transmission capacity is less than 500 megawatts in certain seasons. This is less than what is required. The situation is encouraged by the absence of sufficient transmission equipment, which has resulted in stranded generation of power, meaning electric power available cannot be fully transmitted because the infrastructure has not reached that level when there will be no redundancy of being unable to fully evacuate the generated power. Also, as part of efforts to boost power supply in the country, the Jonathan administration through the NIPP commissioned several new injection substations. The managing director of Niger Delta Power Holding Company, James Olotu, says the objective of the NIPP substations is to provide more quality power supply and strengthen the distribution aspect of the electricity value chain.
To celebrate your making of history in the power sector, the adding of another 500 megawatt power to the good people of Nigeria in support of your transformation agenda for this great nation. It has always been your passion and indeed your understanding that power, adequate power, determines in no small measure the level of development of any nation. Nations with more infrastructure and power availability have always been the better and wealthier ones, ceteris paribus. Indeed, history will record that never have we had it so good to successfully commission the addition of 2 brand new power plants, adding 934 megawatts within just 16 days.
Transmission infrastructure deficit in the country has adversely affected power supply. To address this, the Jonathan administration embarked on the construction of transmission lines in different parts of the country through the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, and the Niger Delta Power Holding Company.
The Transmission Company of Nigeria has commenced work on a new transmission substation located close by at Omotosho village, an additional 330 kV transmission line circuits to Epe, Aja, and Okearo in Lagos.
The Electricity Power Sector Reform (EPSR) Act of 2005 provided the platform for the reform of deregulating the Nigerian electricity supply industry (NEST) from the control, ownership, and regulation of the sector by the federal government to a private sector-driven industry. Successes recorded in the last 3 years prove that the August 26, 2010 launch of the Power Sector Roadmap by President Jonathan has encouraged significant progress in the implementation of the structural reforms outlined in the Act. Already, a number of power purchase agreements are being negotiated with an increasing number of independent power producers (IPP) under the bulk trader scheme. Significant progress has also been recorded in restoring investor confidence, as evidenced by the increased investment and signing of Memorandum of Understandings (MOUs). The most recent is the MOU signed with Power China Corporation to develop 20,000 megawatts of thermal power plants with associated substations and transmission lines up to 10,000 kilometers. No doubt, President Jonathan and members of the Federal Executive Council have shown high-level political will in launching the process fundamental to the transformation witnessed in the power sector. Without such level of commitment, the achievements recorded from 2011 to date would not have been realized. Particularly, the launching of the power sector roadmap in August 2010 by President Jonathan has accelerated the pace of the reform and the significant achievements recorded. Some additional good news is that all power reform institutions are established and operational.
We are indeed glad that, Mr. President, in your characteristic crave for transformation and development, you have actualized the dream of having another dam to boost electricity by adding 700 megawatts to the national grid. We see this your visit as part of the centenary celebration. We thank you for this gift. Mr. President, you are the only Nigerian with the good luck and experience of being a deputy governor, a vice president, and a president with a PhD. So if you hear criticism, it is not because we don't love you, Mr. President. It is because we want more. If we don't make the noise, people will not hear us.
Key players in the power sector, and indeed Nigerians, agree that given the panache and dedication of the federal government to efforts to unbundle and privatize the Power Holding Company of Nigeria, PHCN, President Jonathan is certainly walking the talk. Government actions so far are assurances that provision of uninterrupted power supply in Nigeria is very possible, and President Goodluck Ebele Azikiwe Jonathan is walking the walk to light up Nigeria.
I can assure you that I have said so before, President Jonathan will achieve the 14,000 megawatts. We will have enough power redundancy in this country. And I look at the body language of the president, I think that is what he's aiming for. Because each time he murmurs to himself, he says, I must achieve this power issue. I must break this.
I can assure you, if you judge by the importance he's given to power to date, I have no doubt that in his new administration again, he will take a position on this issue that clearly shows that he wants to finish the job. I'm sure one thing he would like to be remembered for, in return for the mandate Nigerians are giving him, he would like to be remembered as a president that finally solved what was beginning to look like an unsolvable, intractable problem.
4 years of breathtaking challenges, 4 years of unprecedented display of the undying Nigerian spirit, a rare determination to steer the Nigerian ship safely through the storms of social, economic and political challenges. With cool, calm and calculated resolve, President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan is taking Nigeria on the steady march to greatness. With President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, Nigeria is work in progress. Don't stop the match. Vote for continuity. Vote for President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. Vote PDP.